Today, I'm going to tell you the story of Ulong, a silly little guy with iconic, round, smart eyes. He always made sure to have the prettiest fur, even in the toughest of times. He loved peanuts above all things. The picky bastard always left behind some food in his bowl. He also enjoyed pears, carrots and parsnips, broccoli less so. And he gave the most memeable reactions. I remember the very first time we met. My sister and I were in the pet shop, ironically considering getting a bunny, but we were hesitant. Then suddenly, we passed by a cage labelled Syrian hamster and saw him, all curled up in his nap. We were instantly in love with the pattern and colour of his fur and got him on a whim. We named him Ulong because as a baby, his fur had the exact shade of brown that Oolong milk tea had. We begged the shop to keep him for one more day so we could get his home ready. How should I describe Ulong? He was definitely a hermit like me, but he was also my roommate for 2 years, where he watched me work, study, practice, and do everything in my room. As an architect, he enjoyed digging craters in his environment and would build houses using anything imaginable. His little hut was constantly lined with something resembling hardened sand, but he was also a clean boy, having taught himself to only ever pee in his sand bowl, so his home never stank. Ulong had a particular habit of cycling his food. He would first dig himself a crater, then repeatedly pick up food from the bottom and drop it at the top, forming a cycle. In his emo teenager phase, whenever I invited him out of his hut, he also enjoyed throwing his poop at me. Or maybe he thought I was a bin man, who knows. During the pandemic, he was my only roommate and friend in real life. Every morning I'd greet him in his hut and made it my routine to refill his water before bed. Whenever I left home overnight, I was always scared to leave him alone, so I set up all sorts of contingencies, from a remote-controlled camera to housemates, or even giving a key to friends living nearby. But the time I left home for 2 weeks in a row, I couldn't just leave him. So I took him along with me to live in Glasgow for a bit. So now I can proudly say he's a well-travelled hamster, having lived in 3 cities in 2 countries. Now the problem with keeping a rodent is that they can't roam free, so their cage is all the living space they get. As he grew, I thought I wanted to give him a bigger and nicer home. So I did what hongkongers do best when we run out of space to build on. I built upwards. I took 2 storage boxes, drilled holes and connected them with a tube, and designated them for living and playing respectively. When I got the news that the Hong Kong government decided to heartlessly slaughter thousands of hamsters, I looked into Oolong's eyes and thought about how fortunate I was to have him over here with me, as thousands of children in a distant land lost their friends. Unfortunately, I don't think I ever gained 100% of his trust. While he was perfectly comfortable hanging out while I was around, he was always cautious not to put all 4 of his paws on my hand at once. I think the only time he willingly hopped on was when he was sick and weak. One of his strongest suits was destroying things. His favourite toy of all time was a wooden unicorn head, which he often hugged to sleep, and more often chewed the living shit out of. I later also got a second chewable hut, whose straw roof he promptly took apart. Perhaps it was precisely that which went wrong. It would be quite ironic that his best feature was what took him away from me. A few months before he was 2 years old, his left eye started swelling. His vet had no idea where it came from, but it could either be an infection from an injury or an internal problem. Every time I took him to the vet always said to keep him comfortable. Words that I didn't know at the time meant something was very wrong. He was always good at giving me that glimmer of hope, telling me Syrian hamsters can live longer than this, or that his fur was still tidy. Or more medically speaking, his eye would die, but his body would heal. Throughout the months, I spent my savings on Oolong's antibiotics and painkillers to aid his body in healing. I assumed he didn't know what was going on, or was simply suffering, such that whenever I tried to feed him the meds, he would push the syringe away like a grumpy, annoyed child. I actually tried tricking him with a strategy that my mum used on me when I was a kid, by lining the syringe in sweet honey. But he was so smart and aware, it only worked once. So he was definitely smarter than childhood me. But despite all that, his eye worsened and scabbed over. The vet predicted that it meant the eye had died and Oolong had healed. But as he removed the scab, reality would prove to be otherwise. That was the moment the exasperation truly set in. I knew I had to be ready. After I deep cleaned Oolong's home for the very last time, something I wouldn't have known back then, he stopped filling up every single one of his hideouts with crap and simply left them empty. He also kept changing where he slept, something that he rarely used to do. One afternoon, he flipped over and struggled to get back up. In late February, I had to be away just for a couple of days, while my mother would take care of him. Before I left, I said to him, Promise me you'll make it at least till I'm back to say goodbye. Only a couple of days. Please." Perhaps he did promise, and he did make it. I can't tell. But at that point, I already had a feeling of what was to come. My worst fears were surfacing. When I got home from this short trip, I immediately looked into his home. I was 60% sure I saw him breathing in his sleep, but just a few hours later, I was about to head out and thought I might as well refill his water bowl. That's when I found out he was truly gone. So my last words to him were what I'd said just after arriving home. "Oolong, 你喺度啊？點解你喺度嘅？你瞓緊啊？瞓得好啲喎。" Perhaps he did hear me. He heard me and thought, I've made it. It's time to go. As we gently laid him in the ground, all my mind could think was, what if he's just sleeping? Maybe as we look away, he'll climb out of that hole, and then he'll find a happier life in the freedom of Mother Nature. That was a year ago. The days after he left, I had so many thoughts racing through my head. I wonder why he went to his least favorite hideout in his final moments, the same one that he destroyed and might have destroyed him. He entered his least familiar environment and never came out again. I thought I was going to make him chicken at some point. Why didn't I do it sooner? The last good thing I did for him was cleaning his play area. The first night after Ulong left, me and my partner were sleeping in the same room as the empty enclosure. In the middle of the night, I hallucinated a sound from the nuts, while she was unconsciously waiting for the hamster wheel to start squeaking the moment the lights went off. It was all so eerily quiet. I could hear it in my head. I could hear everything, but it just wasn't there in real life. For a while, every night I would feel deep down that something was missing in this silence. I kept his home untouched for a good few months, and whenever I looked in the direction of the enclosure, I'd pause, expecting to see him roaming about, minding his own business. All those rigid schedules and routines I'd set up were just gone in a puff. No more supplying water and food every day, feeding him antibiotics, spot cleaning, replacing bathing sands, changing half his bedding every once in a while. I had so much extra time, I didn't know what to do with it, but to think of him, because I'd been so used to all these things, and they were just gone now? It's just weird to think that he will never run again, and he will never have another peanut again. And all I can say is, dear Ulong, ever since you left, I've been pondering if there's anything I could have, would have, should have done differently to give you a better life, or make you happier with me. But as with anything else in this world, what's been done is done, and we work with the cards we've been dealt. I still don't know what ultimately took you from me, but I'm glad you were there. For 2 of the hardest years in this generation, I'm glad it was with you that I lived, laughed, and stared into what seemed like an endless void, just like the one you've left in my life.
น้อง啊，你健健康康啊，知嘛？唉，唔睬我，你要長命啊！等我再嚟啊，乖啊，健健康康啊，烏龍。唉，瞓覺啦，你瞓覺啦，我走啦。